Does it ever feel like for you that you are crushing your goals? Like you are in incredible momentum and then boom, it's like out of nowhere, it's deflated. You can't find the energy. And it's like, why do I even continue? I've been there. Some days you just don't feel like it. And in this episode, we're going to explore the dip, a unique framework to keep you motivated and on track for getting to the place that you're worthy of being. Let's grow. We're about in the middle of the year, and at the start, we actually offered a program of Up-Level Your Life. And I thought with this episode, it's an important time to check in and just see like how you're doing. Has the initial burst of motivation for your goals started to fade? Is it like, well, you can find you're motivated? You ever been like really motivated for like a day, and then it was weeks, perhaps months before you found it again? How do we maintain the level of inspiration and motivation that is required to reach the destination? Ideally, in our kind of fanatical or fantasy filled mind, it would be not a struggle. It would be easy. It would be smooth sailing throughout. But those of us who've actually gone after something that matters, who've actually ever embraced a challenge, we know and understand that that is indeed fantasy, and that's not the way that it works. And so in this episode, we'll unveil a framework that I refer to as the dip, so that you can navigate the motivational slump that hits all of us. So when the novelty wears off, when the shine wears off, you can learn how to reignite the drive so that you are able to stay committed for the long haul and get what it is that you want. How's that sound? Right. I know that for me, I'm actually, in full transparency, I'm recording this episode on a Thursday morning, and it's usually Sunday, Monday. And I was frankly, struggling this week to just get the episode out and done. And I'm like, I'm fighting against it. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Therein is an episode, because there's got to be people who listen who know what it's like to not feel like it. And frankly, that's where I've been this week. Not that I don't have any less love for getting to my goal and inspiring my vision of millions of people. But this was a week. This has been a few days where I've just not felt I've not felt it. I've not felt it. And so it's like, well, what do we do? Because I've had this experience before. This is not the first time I've, dealt with that. And so it's like, okay, well, what do you do, Courtland, when you just simply don't feel like it, where the progress isn't where you want it, where the momentum seems to have slowed down, what you thought would be a good break or a big break, fizzles out. And so how do you then keep yourself going? If you can relate to that, then I believe that you're going to appreciate what I'm about to share, okay? So first and foremost, it's about understanding that it is this dip, so start out really, really excited, see the vision, see the plan. I'm optimistic about the possibility. That only lasts for so long. And so if you're only relying on that, then you set yourself up for failure. I don't care what the vehicle is, all right? It requires recharging. It requires rejuvenation. It requires refueling. Even the most luxurious automobile only has a certain run time before it needs to be refueled or recharged. The same is the case for us. The same is the case for me, for you, where there's only so far we can run. There's only so much we can do before we have to recharge and refuel. And it's important that when you're experiencing that dip, that it not become, some internal conversation or dialogue of, well, I must not be serious. I must not want it. They say, unless I jump out of bed and land on both feet like I'm landing on rose petals and a bed of lilies, then I'm not excited or more serious about my goal. Like there's some nonsense out in personal development that suggests that every single day you're to feel like it. And as a person who is a high achiever, I can tell you that is simply not true. Great for books, perhaps, if you want to promote lies and inaccuracies. All right, okay. Great for podcasts and short YouTube shorts. But if you're talking about something that matters and that is indeed a challenge, understand that there is an inevitability to the fact that some days you won't be motivated. Some days you just won't be inspired. And so, since we know that those days are happening, it's better to equip ourselves. It's better for me to equip, you to equip. It's better for us to be equipped for how we handle the inevitable depressions, the inevitable dips as it relates to the pursuit of a goal or dream. And so first is this unique, kind of framework or approach. It's first about, you got to define where your destination is. So what I began to see is that when I most lost the drive, the momentum, the motivation, if I'm being very honest with myself, it's because I've allowed my vision to get blurred. I'm not exactly clear on where I'm going. And because I'm not clear on where I'm going, I find myself more fatigued and exhausted. And so if you're going to navigate the dip, if you're going to navigate and collapse the time, close the amount of time that it takes for you to get motivated and going again, being definite about where your destination is incredibly important, right? The vision matters, what it is that you want. And I've noted that when the more specific I am about where I desire to be, then the more inspired I become if the goal is big enough, if the purpose is big enough. Right, it becomes a refueling, so to speak. And so we must define clearly the destination. And then it is the I in DIP, okay, is for identifying. So we define the destination. The I is for identify the pitfalls. Identifying the pitfalls, meaning like you got to identify what is happening in your environment. What have you allowed to seep into your environment that is becoming or has become an energy leak? What I note is that when I'm most experiencing the pitfalls, when I'm most experiencing, those dips, it is because, when I'm riding in my truck, when I'm around town or I'm on a plane, it's those moments where I say, well, it'll be okay for me to just, watch the game, watch this, mindless television. It's okay for me to, read something less than what is, filling my mind and, my positive mental attitude, like something less than that. Okay. And so when I'm on it though, I'm very protective. I'm very protective of what I feed my mind. When I start to get momentum to the extent that I drop off, then it becomes energy leaks that seems to somehow become a bigger and bigger hole, and now I lose the inspiration. So I also can look at, you may also look at what are the conversations that you've been participating in? Who have you been participating in those conversations with? And are those conversations ones that inspire? Or have you got lax and such that you allow, or that you're now participating and engaging in conversations that aren't in alignment with your destination? Again, that's why the destination is important, knowing what it is that you want. Okay, you're not wrong for it, but there are moments where we can get lax, and when we get lax, then it's like all of the nonsense, the weeds start to choke out the life of that which has been planted in your garden. So you have to define your destination, identify your pitfalls, and then you set a plan to persevere, meaning you develop strategies to overcome the anticipated pitfalls. So note that I said identify what the pitfalls could be. right? The obstacles, the challenges that you come up against, and then how will you manage them? See, again, we cannot set up a life where there are no pitfalls, there are no obstacles, there are no challenges, there is no adversity. That's fantasy. So the idea then is to have a strategy in place that when the adversity or the challenge comes, you have a way that you're going to move through it. You're going to navigate it. Now, that is not one, that's not, some would suggest that that's thinking negative and, why would I anticipate the negative? And it is, that's just not accurate, right? Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the brilliance of Napoleon was his ability to anticipate what his enemies would do. He would actually, within his war plan, imagine and give considerable thought to what his opponent might do. So essentially, he would say, okay, well, if I was them, here's how I would attack me. And then he would set a strategy in place to counteract that. Now, translate to your life, because in reality, we are at war. You are at war with your habits. You're at war with your addictions. You're at war with complacency. You're at war with comfort. You're at war with mediocrity. Like, make no mistake about it, you are at war daily with mediocrity, with comfort, with settling, with lower standards. You're at war. And so, what is your strategy to handle it? You are remarkable and you have something extraordinary to give and extraordinary to contribute. And what gets in the way are limiting beliefs and belief structures that are counter to the truth of who you are. We are at war with that on a daily basis. And so to have something in place that allows you to have a plan for how you'll persevere and move through the pitfalls and the inevitable challenges is absolutely, like, that's brilliance. It's brilliance. So we can't set up a life where there will be no dips. We cannot have a life where we'll always be motivated. There is no such thing as always being ready to go. Inevitably, there is life and the inconveniences and the challenges and the obstacles and the adversities that come up, and they aren't just visiting you. And they don't just visit people who have a tough time, and it's not just visiting people who are successful. Everybody gets a piece of that. No one gets to skip it. And so therefore, we must then focus on our progress and not the perfection. You must give yourself some grace. You got to have some compassion, some empathy, right? There are benefits to the pitfalls. And perhaps we'll get into that in another episode, but there are benefits to the pitfalls. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. And so surrounding yourself with people and being in environments that are promoting your growth, that are conducive for you to grow, very, very important as well. And so, again, of course, there are days when you just don't feel like it. But if you can find a way to push through even on those days, you win. Because even now, I feel myself even now getting like, okay, I pushed through it. I didn't feel like it today. I didn't feel like it. And so what? I don't feel like it is not reason enough for you not to have the life that you're worthy of. It's not reason enough for you not to be a worthy expression of your brilliance. So, of course, we will have the dips. But when we do, let's have an environment and a plan in place that allows us to move through them. And so we do that by defining the destination. We have to have a vision of where it is that we're headed and what we want. We identify the pitfalls. We are either experiencing them or we know that they're on the way. And then we have to have a plan for persevering through them. I hope this helps. If it does, don't keep it a secret. Let someone know that this podcast does exist. And if you're not already a subscriber of the channel, please do so. That said, I would appreciate if you would join my mailing list at courtlandwarren.com/opt-in. Okay, courtlandwarren.com/opt-in. Join the email list, and I'll be able to communicate to you directly with news of events, resources, and opportunities. All right, that said, we'll see you next time. Appreciate you listening.